Hi friends from around the world. This is about collective marks and intangibles. A bit abstract, a bit different today, but still interesting and entertaining, I hope. So what is a collective trademark? Collective trademark is a trademark which is affixed on goods and products as any other individual mark. But whereas the individual mark wants to indicate the origin of the goods and allowing the consumers to repeat their purchase with the same goods if they are satisfied with them, it is not for the collective marks. The collective marks conveys the message to the consumers that the producer of the goods or services, that they belong to a certain association. Why would they belong to a certain association? Well, they have some positive characteristics of whatever kind to offer to the consumers. And what kind of characteristics could that be? Well, these are described in the application, together with the application, the description of how the functioning of that association is being done. Let's come to an example. Here we have on the screen example of wool. Wool is an association in Europe, and that is the trademark for it. It's a collective trademark. And what stands that sign for? Well, it stands for the association which has certain characteristics with regard to the elaboration of wool, the natural ingredients and how they are processed and where does it come from and what is the animal, etc. So these are some kind of quality characteristics to which the consumer can rely on if they see that this is this mark is on that product. Now, the individual mark is also on that product, right? So there is a certain characteristic of the product as such, and then you have the producer, the indication of origin also. That means that there can be in the association competitors, though that must not have, the one goal of the associates is to convey to the consumers that, well, this has these kind of characteristics, right? So this is about the collective marks. There is still. You need to know that the owner of the collective mark is one company, one association, one person, if you want, and the associates, they don't have any right in the trademark. They pay their certain amount to belong to and have the right to use the trademark, but the trademark is not theirs. And on the other hand, the association or the company, the owner of the trademark, they would, on one hand, supervise and control that the standards which is in the description, which has been filed together with the trademark to EIPO, for example, that the description that these standards are being observed by the associates, and that there are no other which are not associates using the mark, or there are not so to say the infringement. There's no infringement of this trademark. This is the owner who takes care of. Now the use requirement is a general principle of the trademark law. So collective trademarks are also required to be used on the market, right? If they are not used, it can be cancelled, and this can be cancelled by an invalidity claim because it is a ground which is foreseen in the individual claim. Now, it is a kind of absolute ground, so the third party which files that invalidity claim does not need to have any interest. So that is the overall situation, the background. Let's come to the case which is about Der grüne Punkt here on the screen, which is a collective trademark application of 1996 for, well, for a lot of goods and services. All goods, the goods in classes 1 to 34, not all of them, but a big part of them are part of that application, and services as well, a lot. So you have a whole variety of goods and services which are covered by this collective mark. And the description of of this collective mark is that it conveys the messages to the consumers that the packaging is, so to say, environment friendly, is recyclable according to standard practices, and there's even a regulation from the European Union. Well, it conveys the environment friendly possibility of recycling these kind of packages, so they must comply with some standards of ingredients so that it is recyclable. So 1996, that was applied for, it was registered, it was renewed in 2006 after 10 years, and in 2012 there came an invalidity claim from a third party which says, well, it has not been used during the last 5 years and it must be cancelled. That was the ground advanced, and they made some prima facie evidence that it has not been used, that is required for the invalidity claim to be processed, right? So the cancellation division, well, they made the point that the packaging is one thing and the goods is another. Now, the use of the sign for certain goods, like milk, for example, on the packages of milk, there is this sign, and there's the house mark, naturally, the mark of the producer. But it does not mean that the collective mark is on the packages for milk, does not mean that it has been used for milk, because the consumer, they make a distinction between that collective mark which refers to the packaging only, not to the good as such. And they make the distinction of these two, the goods, the product as such on one hand, and the packages on the other, and this would only be linked to packages. The conclusion being of the cancellation division is that the invalidity claim was well-founded for the majority of the goods and services, except for the packaging ones, where we have a lot of evidence. And a lot of evidence has been produced by the Collective Trademark Association, or trademark holder. It has produced a lot of evidence, so the people knew it. But it was not about that the people don't knew it. It was about that the consumers, they make a distinction between, on one hand, the collective trademark for packaging only, for recyclable things, and on the other hand, of the product itself. Now, this was confirmed by the Boards of Appeal with an extensive decision, and the General Court as well, and it went up to the European Court of Justice by the DGP, Der grüne Punkt, which said, in principle, well, the consumers, they said it is a unity of the package and the goods. So if it was on all types of goods and services, then it should be recognized as being used also for those goods and services. As it is a unity, it is bought as a unity, then afterwards it is separated because the milk is drunken and the package is being so recycled in the best case. And the European Court of Justice, they annulled the ruling of the General Court, which does not happen often. So it is a good moment to listen into what is the opinion of the European Court of Justice. And they said on these argumentation presented by DGP, they said, well, the rejection, the blunt rejection without going into the details of the goods and services, was wrong, because there has to be made a assessment with regard to individual goods and services, and maybe different for milk, for example, but what about the other medicaments or all kind of goods and services. And there must be an assessment, perhaps not with each individual good and how is it perceived by the consumers, but with groups of goods which are comparable one to the other, and groups of services, how it is perceived by the consumers. And there was an indication by the European Court of Justice. It says, well, for everyday consumer goods, like, milk, again, for everyday consumer goods, it may be an incentive for the consumers. You have three kind of milk on the shelves, and you see on one there is the recyclable, and you buy it every day, and you are environment friendly approach to your life, and you will say, well, I take that one which is recyclable, and then I'm doing a good thing for the environment. So that it is not so. The European Court of Justice, that did not say that it is so, but it just say that it is a possibility. And the General Court should have checked this possibility. Now, it is a bit, what is it about here? It is a bit and that is my point here today, it is about the allure, the intangible, the environment friendly, which can have an effect on the purchase of the goods. So it is not about the indication of origin only. In the collective mark, there's the message also, but it is about here environment friendly. And how is it about environment friendly to make the decision with regard to the goods and services? So the European Court of Justice ruling now opens, so to say, the door for making some intangibles being taken into account for the decision making and for creating a market share for that, in that case, the collective mark. Now let's go to two other cases where we have also, it is about intangibles, and we have two different approaches. And I think that would be interesting to look at. They are entertaining as well. So let's come to the first case, which is from 2018, and it concerns Neuschwanstein. What is Neuschwanstein? Here on the screen is a castle which is in the south of Baviera at the foothills of the Alps. And I think it has been, the rumors are that it has been used by Walt Disney to have, to make a copy on the beginning of the movies of Walt Disney. They depict a kind of castle that is this kind of castle. Now, it was an application for the word mark by the owner of the castle in that case, that is the state of Baviera. And they made it for 17 classes. So again, a lot of classes were being focused here, and it was about souvenirs. Souvenirs, all kind of souvenirs. You can all kind of goods within the NIS classification. They qualify for souvenirs. So there was a lot of things which have been focused here by the word mark. So there was registered as such, right? And there came an invalidity claim again, which was rejected by the cancellation division, by the boards of appeal, by the General Court, and by the European Court of Justice. And what was the reasoning behind? Well, this is just, it is about the souvenirs and the link to the castle. So the consumers, and that is the main reasoning behind, the consumers, they would not think that a souvenir or a good or these services would have been made at the castle. The castle is a kind of museum. So people come to the castle in order to see the museum, but the castle and the surrounding, or the village nearby, they are not famous, or they are not known, they are not associated by the consumers with the production of certain goods. So they would not make that connection. So here, the possibility of allure, of royalty, it was made by the King Ludwig II from Bavaria. So with luxury, or with it was a luxury castle, that is allowed in that case, and probably it can be a kind of giving a push to the marketing of the goods and services in that case. Now I have a second case, which is Windsor Castle. Here on the screen, Windsor Castle. What is Windsor Castle? Windsor Castle is a property of the Queen of England, a very big castle in the surrounding of London. Now, Windsor Castle has been applied for as a word mark from a German, well, it's a coffee and tea company, Darboven, and it was for class, among others, for class 30, right? Tea. So you know that tea and England and castle and royalty, well, not the cancellation, the examination division, they said for tea it is descriptive. 7.1c European Trademark Regulation, or non-distinctive, well, both. Now, what is the reasoning? Well, the English are very much known for tea, though there's the 5 o'clock tea, together with cakes and sweets, and there may be some visits to that castle, Windsor Castle in England, which is followed then by a cup of tea with some cakes or whatever. So the non-distinctiveness comes from the fact that the consumers, if they see Windsor Castle on tea, they would say, well, that would come from Windsor Castle. So they would make the association with Windsor Castle, which is a well-known castle in England, and for tea, etc. So that is not good. So here the boards of appeal, they confirmed, and it went up to the General Court. But the EUIPO instances, they thought, well, Windsor Castle here is precisely being used as a hook for the consumers in order to get them on board and buy this trademark, this tea from this company. Now, the General Court annulled that reasoning and that decision, in the sense they said, well, it has nothing to do with tea, right? So why would somebody think tea is from Windsor Castle? Windsor Castle has not been known to grow tea. The tea comes from, I don't know, from China, from India, from Ceylon, but they would not come from Windsor Castle. The English are well known in order to consume the tea, but the tea comes not from England, right? So they said this is not the way the consumers think. And the tea is possible to name it Windsor Castle. So is that over? Perhaps it's not over. So in the first case it has been cancelled, right? So the General Court ruling. So the General Court has again to go into that matter. I will keep you informed as soon as we have news on this saga. Thanks for tuning in for today.